In this video, I'm going to better explain why we believe these spoilers for the last 3 episodes of Game of Thrones. I'm going to tell you what you should expect from episode 5 based on these spoilers, production leaks for Game of Thrones Season 8. And I'm going to talk about the ending and why the ending may not be entirely reliable, but the biggest spoiler of them all probably is. Subscribe and ring the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next video. Leave the video now if you do not want to hear ending of 8 seasons of Game of Thrones. First thing I want to emphasize is that these leaks were circulating up to 9 to 10 months ago, that nobody believed them because they sounded so crazy. And people didn't start believing them until they started coming true. The first thing that came true was actually in the Battle of Winterfell, The Long Night, episode 3. But people didn't even pay attention to those spoilers then because it was so vague. It referred to Viserion shooting blue flame out of his neck. And that happened in episode 3 as he was going after Jon. As everyone knew that Viserion breathed blue flame, that didn't seem particularly interesting even after The Long Night was aired. Only after Rheagal was shot by Euron and Missandei was beheaded in episode 4 that these crazy leaks seemed true, because those were crazy things that nobody would have predicted to happen, and all 3 of those things happened. The other parts of the leak related to the episode 4 events of how Jon's parentage was relayed to first Sansa, then Tyrion, and then Varys. Definitely happened in episode 4. The other prediction was that the vague prediction, which people don't like, that Jaime betrayed the North. But he did betray Brienne in episode 4. Brienne is pledged to the Northern Lady Sansa. Then most of the other leaks relate to episodes 5 and 6, the battle for King's Landing and the aftermath of prologue of the series. The free folk on Reddit, there are multiple sources, some going back 9 months, some going back a week in an industry forum prior to episode 4. From the leaks a week prior to episode 4, they had many of the things right here. They predict that Jaime will be captured by Dany's army. They say that Dany will execute Varys, and Dany's going to attack King's Landing in a, quote, one-sided fight. Tyrion's going to free Jaime to try to get Cersei out of King's Landing. Drogon's going to burn King's Landing and Euron's fleet. The Clegane Bowl, both the Mountain and the Hound die. Jaime fights Euron and kills him, but is mortally wounded, and he makes it to Cersei where they die together. And that will probably all we see in episode 5. That would be my guess. But these are not broken up by episodes, so we don't know exactly. But I think that the final events are probably going to be left to episode 6. So my guess is that Cersei will die in episode 5, and then the madness of Dany will be left to episode 6. Okay, Tyrion and Jon are upset by mass executions by Dany in King's Landing. Dany executes Tyrion for freeing his brother. Before that, Tyrion convinces Jon to turn on Dany because Dany's going to attack his family until they're all dead. Jon tries to talk to Dany, but she won't be reasoned with, and Tyrion and Sansa scheme against her. And Sansa betrays Tyrion at the end despite their plans to rule together, and Jon either joins the Night Watch or he dies. And then, Dany is killed by Jon, and she's taken up by Drogon, according to some sources. But she goes to the throne room, as we see in the House of the Undying, and goes to the supposedly melted throne, but in the House of the Undying we saw that she did not touch the throne. She turned away to her dead husband Khal Drogo and her dead baby. So I think that is very much consistent with the House of the Undying vision, and maybe the snow is not just ash, but it could be interpreted as Jon Snow. And for that reason, I think rings pretty true, the ending. Also, it is very consistent with the Azor Ahai prophecy that, Dany would seem to be Nissa Nissa, the woman who took the sword in the heart for her husband Azor Ahai to forge Lightbringer. Now, I don't like this ending one bit. I also think that they probably filmed multiple endings, and so it's possible Tyrion dies. So I've seen some reports where Tyrion sits on a council, and Bran is the king. I've seen some reports where some leaks that have many of these things true early on, where Bran is the king and there's a council of Bronn and Tyrion and Sansa and Samwell. So it's hard to say what is the final outcome, who sits on the throne. I suspect that may be kept a secret. Is it possible that the showrunners or people associated with the show that wanted to misdirect us, that they leaked things that were true late in the season that we would only realize late in the season so that they would throw us off as to the final ending of Game of Thrones? Maybe it is Dany that kills Jon and forges Lightbringer. Maybe it's Arya that kills Dany. All those things are possible. The leaks are vague about what Arya does, except that it seems like possibly Jon sees that she's a faceless woman, and because it says it sees her for who she really is. Maybe she was disguised in King's Landing, and when they sack King's Landing in episode 5, he sees her. But her role in all this is kind of uncertain, and that seems a bit odd. I've not believed the whole plot of Dany is a mad queen. I think that she's kind of in a brutal position, and she's fighting against brutal people, and that there's not a way for someone to rule this medieval world without being willing to enforce rules with punishments of death. And I don't know that any other ruler has been called, Mad Tyrion or Mad Tywin just because Tyrion used wildfire in the Battle of the Blackwater, or because Tywin flooded the rains, i.e. the rains of Castamere. He flooded the entire family and caused the whole clan to drown. So maybe Dany does descend into madness in episode 5 and 6. I've not seen that yet, nor do I think that her assault on King's Landing is necessarily mad. And that I think Olenna Tyrell was pretty clear that she thought they should have struck King's Landing with all their force in the beginning, and had they done that, they would have got rid of the threat of the Lannisters very early. And Olenna was right. Tyrion's advice has been bad. His military advice has been poor. And so just because Tyrion and Varys say, no, you can't do this, she's not going to conquer Westeros by not killing people. It's what is done. And, has she been, she was the one that supplied the dragon glass. She was the one that saved Jon on the dragon. Her dragons made it impossible for the Night King to attack Bran by dragon. Is she insane to think that people are scheming against her? They are. They definitely are. Is she insane to think that she doesn't have a lot of friends surrounding her? She's not. These are not loyal people. And these are people that are putting other interests above her rule and her interests. So I hope this is a misdirection. I hope it's wrong. I hope that the ending is not that Jon kills Dany. But so far the leaks have been right. Subscribe and ring the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next video.